Hey moms and dads, this is Brody coming to you from the pond outside of Elmbrook Church. And I'm not really standing in the water because I enjoy an early morning dip in the pool. I'm actually standing here as an introduction to this week's series. Every week at Camp Vertical we do a lot of high energy things. We play a lot of games and do a lot of sports. But our real core time is when we take some time right after lunch and we sit down and we look at the things of the Bible and what God has to teach us. And this week we're looking at things that happen around water. Our series is called Ships Ahoy, and it's talking about the characters in the Bible that were in boats or ships and the lessons that they learned that God taught them in those situations. We're going to look at Jonah. We're going to look at Jesus calming the sea. We're going to look at Noah. We're going to look at the disciples and their fishing. We're also going to look at Peter and walking on the water. As we look at these things, know that your kids are going to be hearing a large group teaching. They're going to be sitting in small groups talking about this and a whole lot of other things as they ask questions, but they need some follow-up at home. It would be great if you would take some time on the way home in the car to say, hey, what did you talk about in small group today? Or hey, what was the story about today? And then go into the Bible and look at the stories a little bit closer so that they're not just hearing it from us, but they're also hearing it from you. God has given you an awesome privilege of being the ones that are the primary voices in their spiritual life. And so I hope that you'll take advantage of that. Look in the Bible, look at these stories, figure out what they mean, and then figure out what they look like in real life. If you watch the rest of this video, this is what they saw to set up the series for this week, and I hope you'll be able to take advantage of the lessons that are being learned and the conversations that are being had. Have a great week. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at any time. Hey Camp Vertical, this is Brody coming to you from the pond. I'm actually standing in the pond, and this is one of those things that we play in, we swim in, we shoot water balloons at our leaders in, but what it's made up of is something that's very important, and that is water. You knew that already, but I thought I'd tell you anyways. Well, water is something that is incredibly important in our world. Actually 71% of the world is made up of water. That's most of our earth. And 60% of you, if you were to take half of you and throw it away, that's about how much of you is made up of water. Water's a pretty important thing. If you were to stop eating right now, your body would be fine for about 35 days. I mean, you'd be tired or whatever, but you could survive. If you stopped drinking, you would only last for 3 days because water is that important to us. Water is also very powerful. You hear about hurricanes, you hear about tsunamis, these big tidal waves, all those types of things. You see about erosion where the water comes down when it rains and it washes things away. Water's a pretty powerful thing. And take a look at this picture. This is from Guatemala City, and it looks like somebody put it on their computer and did something with a computer program, but this actually happened. Water came down at a rate of 3.5 feet in a couple of days, and it went underground in this city and it washed out this perfectly cylindrical or circular hole all the way down 200 feet. And the buildings fell in, and all that happened was water. It's got a lot of power. And we use it for fun. Many of you like to go swimming. Many of you like to shoot water balloons at your leaders on this island. Many of you like to fill up your squirt guns and have a water fight or go down a slip and slide. And those are all fun things, but water is something that we need to take a little bit of a closer look at. I've had experience in a boat on the water. When I was a kid, I lived at a camp, and my dad used to take us out in boats all the time. And sometimes they were ski boats, sometimes they were canoes. And on this one day, the camp had been given a huge lifeboat. It even had a motor from one of the ocean liners that they had put into dry dock. And so we went out on the lake, and as we're in the middle of the lake, I started to look in the bottom, and it seemed to have a little bit of water in the bottom, which is normal, and I thought, okay, this is fine. And as we kept going, there was a little more water and a little more water, and we realized that we were beginning to sink. And so we turned back towards shore, but before we made it back towards shore, that boat completely sunk. And that was a day I realized that maybe there were some lessons to be learned around water. This week we're going to look at the scriptures. And in the Bible, water is oftentimes not referred to for play or for fun. In fact, it's never talked about where there's swimming and water balloons and water fights. It actually is talked about when there was fishing going on so somebody could earn a living, or when there were boats on the water so that somebody could be transported from one place to the other. And so this week we're going to look at things that happened around water, and actually, since the things in the Bible most of the time happen in boats, we're calling our series Ships Ahoy. We're going to look at some characters in the Bible that were on boats and the lessons that they learned. And today Krista's going to start us out, and she's going to tell us about a character who used a boat to run away, and some very valuable lessons that he learned as God caught up with him and put him where he needed to be. So I hope you'll enjoy this week's series. I hope you'll listen closely, because we live near a bunch of water, and so maybe when we look at that water from now on, we're going to think about it just a little bit differently.